Just for the guests, Ryan.
Yeah, the board doesn't need to sign it, only guests. I'll print one out next time. So you called to order?
I have called the order.
It's my turn.
Yeah, I didn't bring it. I do.
Okay, one moment. I take the attendance.
So I can bonk you over the head, Mike.
Okay, so are we ready?
We are ready. Go ahead and take
So
attendance.
you're here. Ms. Goodman?
Here.
I am here. Mr. Fauch? Is he online yet, Mr. Fauch?
What position is he?
Treasurer Nathan Fauch?
No.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, he is.
Thank you.
I'm
He's calling.
Okay. Mr. Fure?
here.
Mr. Lauer?
Here.
Mr. Lalaman?
Here.
Mr. Lutz is here. Fundraising is vacant. Mr. Labrie?
Here.
Mr. Kane?
Here.
And we have our parliamentarian, Mr. Seebeck, Mr. Aiken, and Mr. Quinlan. So everyone is here, Mr. Chair, with the exception of legislative, which is vacant.
Thank you. We have several guests here. We have reduced our time to 2 minutes, but I know Natalie is probably going to need a little bit more than that. If she can't finish in 2 minutes, we'll extend the time for her. She's given us a little presentation. Go ahead, Natalie. Would you like to start?
Sure. Do I need to sign
Please
in?
introduce yourself to the folks that don't know you.
Okay, and do you want me to sign in anywhere?
Yeah,
In
we
the
got a sign-up
sign-in
sheet
sheet.
going around here somewhere.
Oh, okay, I'll do that then after, okay. So, my name is Natalie Menton, and I am a longtime activist, especially anything related to reducing property taxes or securing our rights, property rights, and petition rights. But tonight I'm talking about Initiative 27, which is a statewide initiative that we are currently circulating. And what it does, summed up real briefly, 9% reduction in property taxes around the state of Colorado for both residential and non-residential properties. Non-residential includes commercial, vacant land, everything besides a residential. This will reduce the assessment rate, so it takes it off the formula, which a lot of people don't quite know how does that formula work. But the formula is the assessor sends you a valuation, which comes out in May. Then they take residential times 7.15% of that, and it gives you your assessed value. That assessed value then is taken times your mill levy, because my mill levy, my local property taxes are probably different from Frank's mill levy. That's what then gives you your property taxes. It's that percentage at the beginning. So the 7.15% rate is reduced down to 6.5, and the same with business. It takes it from the current very high 29% and takes it down to 26.4. Either of those formulas, if you reduce it by 9%, it's a reduction of 9%. And so this is a statewide initiative, and what I am seeking is, first of all, signatures. Anybody hasn't signed yet, please sign it so we can get this on the ballot for this year. It will become effective January 1, which is when property taxes go out. And there are some people who are going to be in quite a sticker shock because of the dramatic increase in property taxes. And I believe, Wayne, you deal in real estate, so you're very well aware of it. Maybe some others are not, but it's a huge jump in what properties are selling for. Now, this will not only benefit somebody who owns property, this will also benefit renters. Because if you're, and especially those type of properties have jumped. The multi-family, those have seen dramatic increases. There's a third benefit. I'll give the example, the King Supers by my house, whereas commercial properties have been relatively flat. My King Supers, which has done no improvements over many years, their property jumped from just under $7 million value to over $13 million within just this last increase. And what that will mean is that my bread, my milk, and everything else I buy at that store is going to go up. So we need this. It is not starving government. I actually would like that. But with double-digit increases in these valuations, 15%, 20%, I've seen them at 180% increase in the valuation or the taxes. 9% is a very modest reduction. And so again, I'm hoping to get signatures, but also I hope that the LPCO will take a vote on a resolution that would have to be proposed by a member so that they would support Initiative 27 as we get it on the ballot for this November.
I'd like to sign that, please. I'd like to sign, please.
Great, okay. So I hope I kept within the time.
You're going to send me a proposed resolution with
Yes.
some sample language in it, Natalie, that we can fine tune?
Yes, and I apologize, I got behind.
Okay. I'll be waiting on that, and I'm reasonably certain we can get this. This is something that we can get passed on an email resolution, so we don't have to spend time on it tonight. But if you get that to me as quickly as you can, we'll see if we can get it all here.
Okay, and do I have just 30 seconds then to speak about it? One that should be opposed.
Yep.
And that would be Initiative 25 is called, nicknamed LEAN. And I don't know what that, it's Learning Opportunities. And what that is essentially, and that's on the street right now getting signatures, and I refuse to sign it and will actively oppose it at what level I can give. But what that will do is increase taxation on marijuana, one of those behavioral modification taxes essentially. And what that will do is that money from that will go to expanded learning opportunities. And frankly, the schools have sufficient funding, and to target one sector is inappropriate. So I don't know if I might want to maybe submit an opposition resolution draft language on once again targeting taxation to one segment of the population.
How many signatures are you shooting for?
Each one, our target is 200,000. Well, for ours, 200,000 because that includes our cushion.
Right.
We need around 130,000 valid, so 200,000 is the number I always use.
And when did the signature collecting begin?
It began in late May. It was a late start. The tax and spenders created a, asked for the language to be struck. So it had to go through the Supreme Court process, which is a typical tactic we both sides will use. So it got off late, and the deadline to turn these in, for me, anybody who's circulating, and I've given them a petition, needs to be back on the 25th of this month. And we walk into the Secretary of State's office on July 30th, which is a Friday, is the hope. Because the deadline's that following Monday.
Okay, well, this is timely, so yeah, please get that to me as quickly as you can.
What was the initiative number that you wanted us to oppose?
25.
Okay, I just didn't have that for my notes. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions of Natalie before she sits down? Thank you, Natalie.
I greatly appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
You bet. All right.
Frank Atwood, I'm your liaison and to Center Right Coalition and also part of the Approval Voting Party. One thing I don't know if some of you have seen is a Gallup report, support for third U.S. political parties at a high point. With regards to this chart that I've distributed, I highlight that they say 62% say a third party is needed, up from 57% in September. Conclusion here is for alternative parties, approval voting does not guarantee victory. However, approval voting can provide more conspicuous viability and visibility and get America beyond two-party domination. That's with regards to approval voting. And also I provided you with an article, Approval Voting, A Voice for Independence. With regards to this morning's Center Right Coalition, what is said here stays here. What is distributed here they last to be distributed further. Pieces of literature. One is the Lincoln Club having Helen Raleigh discuss the national security implications of Chinese Communist Party global aggression. Also, there's literature against Initiative 25 that Natalie mentioned. This title thinks it's leap and not lean, but who knows, you're against, we suggest you're against Initiative 25 that's just a syntax discriminating against individuals. And there's a Liberty scorecard put out by Liberty Principles. Scorecard: individual liberty, personal responsibility, property rights, free markets, limited government, state versus federal balance of power, fiscal responsibility, equal protection, rule of law. Pretty much libertarian. And there's also leadership programs, the Rockies Enrollment Club. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Atwood.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we have some other guests. When we start down at the very end, please introduce yourself, because not everybody knows you.
Hi, I'm Chris Busby. I am currently in San Diego. I'm a registered voter here and currently in the United States Navy.
Very good, welcome.
Thank you.
Bruce?
I'm Bruce Griffith. I'm a former board member and former candidate. Just here to watch.
Very good.
John Jersman, former treasurer and the El Paso County affiliate representative.
Okay.
Lydia Seaback of El Paso County, and taxation and staff control of yourself. Okay, I'm over.
Thank you, Lydia. Okay. We have Liberty handouts. Karen, can you tell me what that's about?
What are you talking about?
Liberty handouts.
I didn't put that there.
Okay, we have somebody made a addition on our agenda, Liberty handouts. Who's familiar with this?
Where did you get that from? That's
I
not.
see that.
Yeah, no, this isn't in the OneNote, Wayne. I have no idea what you're talking about.
The agenda's in OneNote now?
Yeah, and I'll be going over that, but and if someone added that to Google Docs, nobody should be editing the agenda except for the secretary.
I didn't see it in Google Docs.
So we are
Here we go.
here.
Okay. For those of you without computers, this is going to be a little bit difficult, but now is the time for us to approve our agenda. Does anybody have any additions they want to make to the agenda?
Did the thing I submitted get put on there? Because my computer
Yes.
is really slow, so, okay.
And just an FYI, do you have that OneNote link? I emailed it over.
So I was driving, so I haven't gotten into it.
Okay.
I was driving.
Yeah, everything will be online, so that OneNote link will pull.
Oh, I'd already left, so.
Yeah.
I was, I think when that email came through, that came.
I was kind of late.
It's just okay.
Okay, do we have any objection to the approval of the agenda as proposed?
Can we do like 2 more minutes here? I gotta still pull this up.
What is the Wi-Fi for here?
Yes. I2I.
I gotta impose or ask or beg somebody, if someone could plug that in so I don't have to crawl on my hands and knees in a skirt. Which I'll do, and it will be quite entertaining, but I would prefer not to.
Well, I'll get on my hands and knees, but can I borrow your skirt?
That would be even more entertaining.
Oh my goodness.
Whoever asked
Okay,
about the
clear.
Wi-Fi code, it's over here in the corner on the board. It says I2I and then life, comma, 30.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you for the comedy, Jan.
Anytime.
Thank you. I was about to die.
Okay.
So,
Now, has everybody,
well, he was asking for additional time.
Brandon, have you had enough time?
No, I'm still trying to pull this up. Looking at these links right now. It's in OneNote, you said? Gary?
Yeah, I sent a link over for the OneNote.
You open this link. It's still loading.
Where'd the link come through at? Our board emails?
Yeah. But the link is, it's a tiny URL, tinyurl.com, all caps LPCO, then capital J, July 2021.
It's not recognizing my board email to let me in. And it's not recognizing my password on my personal email, which is the one that it prompted me to use first. So I cannot get into OneNote right now.
You don't need a password to get into OneNote. Right, you know.
That's what it told me.
It's anybody with the link can view. Because everyone else is in it. Doesn't require a password. There it comes out right now.
Okay, last time it prompted me to put in my password.
Sure.
I kid you not.
Sure.
I don't lie.
Here for.
And she thinks I cheated.
I'm not gonna do, are you staying for the meetings?
Well, now.
While we are waiting for Brian to do a perusal of the agenda, I would encourage everybody to read the agenda, all of the director reports, and the minutes from last month's meeting before you come to the meeting, so that we can get through these steps more quickly.
This is my fault, Wayne, I didn't have it done ahead of time, so, nobody could have done that. Thank you.
I'm good.
Okay, anybody else have anything you want to add to the agenda? Hearing none, we will proceed to the approval of the minutes. Now, that's been out for a couple of weeks. Any objections to the minutes as proposed? Hearing none, minutes are approved. Reports from the affiliate representatives. We have 5 minutes allotted for each of these, but we're going to try to get through them a little bit more quickly. Do we have anybody here from Arapahoe County?
Yes, it's me, Josh.
Go ahead, Josh.
So our next meeting is tomorrow at 6:30 at Rancho Alegre off of Chambers and Alameda Parkway. We'll be doing a drive for Helping Hands for Dignity Coalition, Reagan Benson's organization. She's asking for gift cards and $10 increments to Walmart, AA batteries, socks, deodorant, toothpaste, toothbrushes, and she's also taking cash. So if everyone comes.
Thank you, Josh. Boulder County? Delta County? How about Denver?
Yeah, the LP Denver has a meeting on July 20th. That's next Tuesday at 6:30 to 8:30 at Rhubar. And we will likely need at least one state board member to attend. We have failed to have a quorum at our last two attempts at holding a quarterly board meeting. And we may need some help in order to get people removed from the board.
I'll show up, Kyle.
When is your next meeting, Kyle?
It's next Tuesday, the 20th,
Okay.
6:30 to 8:30.
Can you text me and remind me, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Douglas County, I really don't have anything to talk about. We were not very active this last month, other than Karen Ann and I went down to Castle Rock and spoke in front of town council in protest of 4 tax increases that were they're going to end up on the agenda. Town council is all for it. So it looks like we're going to have 4 tax increases. The second hearing is next Tuesday, I believe, and we're going to be there again with the same arguments. Do we have anybody from El Paso? John?
Yes. So we got an easy up canopy so we could do outdoor stuff without having to tap the state's equipment, not average equipment. There's going to be a gun show at the Norris Penrose Event Center on July 30th. It's a 3-day event. It starts Friday afternoon and Saturday and Sunday. And our next meeting is whatever, I forget what the 3rd Thursday is, but it's going to be at Tilted Kilt, which is at I-25 in Woodland. That's about it.
John, you plan on going back to Fargo's, or are you gonna stay at Tilted?
I don't know. Fargo's, the manager used to be a libertarian. He's not there anymore. And I don't really know if anybody's looked into, going back to Fargo's. The Tilted Kilt works okay.
Is there like a back room there where you can actually hear yourselves think? Because that's pretty loud in there at Tilted.
There is. The back room isn't bad.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you, John. Jefferson County, do we have anybody from Jefferson County? Mesa County? And Pueblo? Okay, next order of business is the reports from the LNC representatives. We actually have Ms. Harlow's give her report first, and then Chris Lucchini, who is the Region 1 rep, has agreed to give us a moment of his time at 8 o'clock, so we may have to change the order of business for that. If I don't hear any objections on that, we will slip Chris in at 8 o'clock. He'll be calling in from New Mexico. Hearing no objections, we will change the order of business to move Chris to 8 o'clock, wherever that happens to fall. Ms. Harless, would you like to give your report?
Sure. The ballot for the new national chair expired today, and it is Whitney Bilyeu, who is also the state chair of Texas. She's not going to be resigning as the state chair of Texas, so she's state chair of Texas and the national chair. What was very interesting about the ballot, it was done via ranked choice, and I took the physical ballots and ran through all kinds of scenarios on my YouTube channel earlier today, and because there was some random tie breaking, and that always concerns me when that happens, because what if the computer made a different choice? I ran through all the possible permutations. If the computer made different choices, in every scenario Whitney would have won. So she's the clear consensus winner. And just looking at the ballots, RCV worked exactly as RCV was supposed to work. Clear consensus winner. Joshua was a polarizing candidate. He had a ton of first place choices and a ton of last place choices. Oh. Whitney had a fair amount. She had a good number of first, but she was a lot of people's second and third, and that's why she won. So to me, RCV did exactly what it was intended to do, find a consensus candidate. Yeah, so good luck. Congratulations to Whitney. And if there's any questions on that, I'd be glad to hear them.
Mr. Seabeck?
Just a comment. I didn't see your webcast. I was working. But I saw the ballots. And I kind of did the same exercise separately, and there's no doubt Whitney would have won no matter how we would have voted. So just to confirm that, there's no question.
But it did take 5 rounds of running running through the ballots.
Then we need to talk about that separately, because I got confused on something.
Sure.
That's Slater.
Anything else, Ms. Harlows?
Nope.
Next order of business is reports of the board. I have nothing to add to my report. I'm assuming that everybody has read the reports. If not, like I said, please make sure you read everybody's reports so that you can ask that director any questions that you may have. Vice Chair?
So, you had asked me to try to come up with a system for shuttling people for the 50th LP bash. So my committee and I ran some numbers, and we've come up with several different ideas. Not one thing we could kind of decide on without bringing it here and now. So according to the math, if there's 110 people, and that's how many tickets have sold that I know of when we were putting this together, it would be 3 people per car, 2 trips there and 2 trips back. It would take about 20 volunteers for 110 people. Their schedule, or they have up to 800 tickets sold, so multiply that. So that's going to be an excessive amount of volunteers. We could hire transportation, we can take donations from riders to cover the cost, but also one of the major concerns that people have had is liability with insurance, because like when you are working with Uber or Lyft, I've been told, I don't know, I've been told that as soon as you turn the app on and you're working through that company, you're protected under their liability insurance. I did do a few other things. I called both hotels. Both of them, first and foremost, recommended Uber and Lyft. The Courtyard Marriott gave me leads to 2 charter and rental places, and I have numbers for that if anyone's interested. And I talked to Enterprise Rental on their call center. That was interesting. And they don't actually have any sprinters or anything available for that weekend. I had a really hard time nailing down budget, hertz, all that. I'm not from here. I don't know where things are in relation to things. That's a big challenge. So I would need some more help from somebody local in order to get quotes from them. But I actually also came up with another idea. We could put out an email to the membership. I actually have it drafted to see if anybody owns a sort of private transportation company and would be willing to donate to the party that weekend. So that is an option. I just don't see how we're going to get 20 people to 110 people and then multiply that in any higher amount. That's a lot of volunteers. I just don't know that people are going to volunteer in that kind of volume.
In that, we should maybe also ask if anybody has a large passenger van that they'd be willing to loan to the party for a couple days.
I can add that to the email.
And that might be something that would work to our benefit as well. Ms. Harlows?
Just having been involved with similar things, not necessarily here, but like with the National Convention in Orlando, where Florida was helping doing some, not everyone is going to utilize the local party's assistance. A lot of people want to be very independent. They're going to call an Uber and stuff. So I wouldn't panic about the numbers, because there's only going to be a small subset. And plus, it's a favor that we're doing, so it's whatever we can handle kind of thing. It's like, it's a gift. You know, you're not going to complain that the gift isn't large enough. So whatever volunteers we have, even if it's not enough to handle everyone, it'll be a first come, first served type thing. And people will buddy up a little bit. But on the insurance thing, I'm not one to tell anybody their level of risk, and I'm certainly not an attorney or anything like that. But people giving people rides informally, that's covered generally under your own insurance. You're not taking money, nobody's taking money for it, it's not a professional thing. It'd be like picking up your friend and taking them to work. So I personally wouldn't be concerned about liability, but I can't tell other people their worries. But just my life experience tells me liability is not a concern. And whatever amount of volunteers we could get, that's what we tell Tara. That's just my opinion, because this is put in your hands. I'm just giving you my thoughts.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So we could either do, and I could redraft my email to call for volunteers, and then Victoria has already volunteered, so I could put her in a leadership position with that, in that she's here, she knows the area, everybody knows her. I assume she gets along with everyone, I don't know. Or we could also put out the email to seeing if somebody wants to donate, or we could do both. I just kind of want to know a direction before, making something solid.
I think, go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I think just putting out an email and asking for volunteers, and then whatever we get, including like the shuttle, like that's what we give them. I don't think we should spend any significant amount of money at all on insurance or renting.
Because rentals are going to be quite pricey.
And they didn't ask us to spend money, it was volunteer stuff.
I encourage everybody to speak up so that the people that are listening remotely can hear. Just without objections, we'll hear Mr. Hirschman.
I'd just like to remind everybody that the party does have a general liability policy that is in force until sometime in August.
Okay.
But I don't know exactly what it covers. In fact, I was trying to figure out exactly what all it covered.
I'm gonna be sending
Somebody
it to
smart
Sam
needs to-
Goldstein to take a look at that policy.
Okay. Anything else, Ann?
Oh, also, getting in and out of the gate. That was another thing. So I called the venue twice, and I also contacted them via their website. I left 2 messages, and I wrote 2 messages, and I have not heard anything from them. I do have somebody that's trying to get there to actually get feet on the ground and talk to Park Ranger is what I think they have there. So they're gonna try and get me more information on that situation as well. And that actually made me money, getting people in and out of the gate. I'm not sure, I don't have, that part is left.
My experience with the state parks is that you do have to buy 1 pass, and then you can re-enter at no charge as long as the park isn't full. But I'm guessing they could give us some sort of some leniency on that because of the circumstances.
And we're not staying, we're just dropping the people off, so.
And Tara should be able to help with that.
Okay.
Do you have her email?
I do, I need to get back on that. I was just kind of
Yeah.
hoping by today that would have been done, but it's not.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Fauch, I noticed.
Yes, sir.
We don't have a written report from you. You want to give us a verbal real quickly?
All right, I put one up. It was put up late, though. It was put up on Friday. So 567.60 in the Stripe balance. We have 3801 PayPal balance, and BBVA 40,265 and 52 cents. Spending in between June 6th and July 9th was $898.85. And up from June 14th to the 9th, approximately $519.81 was donated. As far as for my month went, I did my county board, and I'm going to be attending the gun show Saturday and Sunday.
Any questions of Mr. Fauch? Ms. Harlows?
David, did you get the report?
No, I did not.
Yeah, Mr. Fauch, you said you put the report up, where?
Actually, so I first put it up on our Google Drive, and then I discovered that was incorrect, and I put it up in somewhere in this for the LP Colorado Google Drive, because I saw other people's board reports there.
Can you email it to David and I, just because I'll need it for my minutes?
Yeah, I'll do it right now.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions of Mr. Fauch? Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
Secretary's report.
Okay. This is the opportunity I'm going to take just to give you a brief introduction to the OneNote thing, which I started for this meeting. Sorry that I didn't get to it till today. It's been hectic, particularly with National and us selecting a new chair and having to do all that RCB stuff. But For each meeting, immediately after the meeting, I'll start a new OneNote. So after tonight, I'll start the August OneNote. And as emails come in and documents come in for the next meeting, I'll be sticking it all in the OneNote. So when you come to a meeting, you won't need to come with a bunch of papers. All reference material you'll need for any meeting will be in OneNote. This is the way the National Party operates. And also, I'll be asking David to include the OneNote link with the Elpedia reports. This allows members to follow along with everything we're looking at. So if anyone's watching online, they get to see everything you get to see. And it makes it a lot more transparent and cooperative. If you just browse around the notebook, you'll see it's pretty logical where I put it by category. So each agenda item that has documents associated with it will have a OneNote entry with it. If there's an agenda item that doesn't have a document, then it's not gonna have an entry. And also in the OneNote, there's my live minutes and live voting, so just browse around it and take a look. So if you have any questions on that before next meeting, you can let me know. I just wanna, even though it's in my report, I just wanna highlight a couple things in the report because things on the secretarial end are changing pretty rapidly from what people have been used to. We do now have a publicly viewable voting record spreadsheet. The link to it is in my minutes. The agenda request form. The next thing I'm going to be working on with David is, and he doesn't know this yet, so you're just learning it now. The Google Drive, in my opinion, is a little bit of a hot mess, so I'd like to clean that up as well and develop a policy going forward as to how that drive is supposed to be. But I'll work with David on that because I know he does a lot in there. So I'll entertain any questions about any of these new procedures.
Okay, hearing none. Anything else, Ms. Harlows? Affiliates.
Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention in my report was I also did attend the Jefferson County meetup last month.
Kyle, have you had any success reaching out to the folks in Boulder and or Delta counties to see what kind of help they need to get up and running again?
I have not reached out yet.
Okay, I have Bo's phone numbers if you don't know how to get them. And I've already spoken with Delta, and if we can get some volunteers to start making some phone calls to some of the Delta County people right now, we need to get them up and running again. We don't want to see them fizzle. Their account.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the Delta County is a separate agenda item.
What was it? I didn't see that. Okay. Put that on your to-do list, Kyle. All right.
Great.
Campaigns.
I've got nothing to add to the report that I submitted.
Any questions of campaigns director? Fundraising.
So I had put down some of the information that I've gathered on the Rocky Horror Picture Show that I'm looking to have us put forward as a gift to the 50th. As I stated, that's going to cost about $700. I still have to submit the request to the studio, who does have right of refusal, so they can shoot it down. But that being said, in order to facilitate everything continue to move along quickly, I would like to move that we set aside $700 for Criterion for the licensing of Rocky Horror Picture Show for the LP 50th.
Is that going to be presented at the event?
Yes, that'll be at the event.
Okay. They have the facilities, the projector, and everything we need?
I've been talking with Tara. They've got a drop screen and all that. Right now, the only thing that we have not locked on or don't have a potential of is speaker system.
Okay. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
So this is just as a gift. This isn't some kind of fundraising event, or?
There can be some ancillary fundraising, but part of the condition of getting this movie for $700 for this event is that there's no admission charged. So we can't make money off of it through selling tickets. It's the Rocky Horror Picture Show. For anyone who's never been, you will need items. Most people will not bring them. They're willing to buy them. We can put together a little gift box and bags and stuff like that. It doesn't cost very much to put those together. We can turn around and sell them to people that are going to be attending. As well as we can bring out some of our own merch and stuff like that. There's ways that we can probably break even, but for the most part, this is a gift and a rapport building sort of thing. It's a small expense that buys a lot of goodwill.
Who's bringing the toaster?
Ms. Harlos?
We can't ask for just donations. We have to give items in return.
Well, I mean, we could ask for donations for from our membership if they wanted to throw in towards like our general fund to put towards that 700.
I meant at the event.
But we can ask for donations. We can't charge for tickets. If
Exactly.
someone- yeah.
And the donations is just to the party,
Yeah.
not for the showing, just
Exactly.
to the party. Okay.
We can ask for general
We'll
donations.
more
yes.
than make up that money.
Oh, I don't doubt it. But even if
You
we
just
were to
looked
lose
in my
money,
soul when you said that.
Oh, was I? Am I
Yeah.
looking right? Are you a Rocky Horror fan?
I don't even know.
You're
Oh
a
my
virgin.
God.
Oh.
if you want, I
Is
can
this
give you
the
the
audience?
masturbation materials that you'll need before the big event.
Is this the audience participation?
All Rocky is audience participation.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it neither.
Oh, we are gonna have so much fun.
Man, I don't know, man. I mean, I remember in the '90s, like seeing things on VH1 and stuff, and like a bunch of dudes in makeup and stuff. I was completely turned off
It's
by it. So I
fun.
mean, I might be totally wrong.
Okay, let's get back on track.
I went the
here.
first time with my mom.
We have a motion and a second to set aside $700 for the Rocky Horror Picture Show that we'll be showing at the 50th anniversary. Any further discussion?
What if they say no?
If Criterion, or if the studio says no, the money reverts back to the general fund. We can even put a sunrise on it of, by the August meeting, if it has not been, a check has not been cut and sent to Criterion, or we haven't finalized an agreement with them, that money gets reverted back to the general fund.
I like the idea of a movie and charging like donations and stuff, but I think just like a
We're
lot
not
of
charging donations.
charging donations,
Asking.
We are
accepting,
asking donations, yep, accepting.
But I don't know what is all involved in this Rocky Horror Picture Show thing, and I think there's a lot of young guys on the board that are be like not 100% like wow into it. So I would motion to amend that you put together a committee to choose the movie.
We don't have time for that. We've got a month and a half. Negotiations have already started for this specific film with Criterion. If we'd have to pick the movie, then we'd have to go to the licensing company, which could be Motion Picture Company, licensing company, could be Swank, could be Criterion, could be any
Point
number of
of
different ones.
order, please, Mr. Chair. There's like crosstalk and.
We have,
Well, I'm trying to answer to my motion.
do you want to keep your amended?
I withdraw my amendment.
Okay. So we're back to the main motion to set aside $700, Ms. Harlos.
Okay, I want to speak to it. I'm totally in favor of it. It's not going to appeal to everybody, but it is going to appeal to some of the older members of the party who have money to give. And it's a lot of fun. And the people who might not think you'll be into it, go. It'll be exposing a whole new generation to a lot of fun. And it's so frickin' libertarian that it will be a party. It's not merely a movie, it's a life event, Rocky Horror. So I am psyched, thrilled about this. I will volunteer however you need to help pull this off.
Columbia.
Maybe.
All right, anybody Anybody else want to speak to?
Is
or
Meatloaf
against
over
this?
here?
So what I'm looking at
Oh my God.
so I'm looking at is we have 110 people showing up to this event. If all of them go, that's about $7 each. So we need to solicit in donations to cover these expenses.
Can't word it that way.
Don't think of this as a money-making event. If you look at this as what profit are we gonna make out of it, you've already lost. And you start running up against legal things with this company, particularly because of the way I have worded all of the negotiations up to this point, which has been, this is not a for-profit thing, this is a gift to an event, an a la carte gift to an overall event. And we're already kind of running up against the thing with what they're charging for VIP tickets.
Is there any risk if a bunch of people donate money with some relevance to showing Rocky Horror Picture Show? Is there a risk that they might turn around and try to bill us for more because they decide retroactively that it's a money-making venture?
If we have someone standing there going, no, I need your donation before they go in, yeah, there's definitely that risk that they'll turn around and they'll hit us for at least half of what we made on it, which we would have to try and figure out. But as long as we're not harassing people about going in, any fundraising is done ancillary, we shouldn't have any legal issues.
Okay, so there is a risk, and this is not a fundraising venture.
It's not fundraising as far as ticket pricing, no.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Yeah,
Who's online?
it's me, Nate.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, Karen talked me into it. I wouldn't mind, giving it a shot. I live in Manitou after all, but as for the money thing, like maybe you know how they do in church, they're like they don't pass that plate around at the beginning of the church, they wait till the sermon's halfway over and do a little we can ask for donations like maybe in the middle, like have an intermission or something, curtain comes down, et cetera, but I'm kind of worried about like if people's coming there to party and whatnot, like do you really think they're gonna sit down and watch a movie?
No, they're not going to sit down.
On the other hand,
That's not how Rocky Horror works.
That's the reason this movie was selected. They're going to
I mean, I'm ignorant of the movie, so you have me on that.
It's an audience participation event.
Yeah, participation.
Okay. Ms. Harless, you had something else you wanted to say?
Plus, literally all we will have to do is have a tithe box like a church, and people will give money. We won't even need to ask. That's just the type of atmosphere that Rocky Horror engenders. But number two, your idea of selling like toilet paper and rice and all that, we can make a shit ton from a little Rocky Horror preparation pack thing. Totally on board. Totally on board. It's brilliant.
Okay. Any other, with that objection, Mr. Hirschman?
Everything that the LPCO takes in is a donation. And if you give somebody that has donated something, that's a premium, it's not a product.
Right.
So,
It's a gift for a
there's some
donation.
crap about, I don't know what it's called, where if you have tickets to an event, there's a meal, and there was concern, well, you have to take out the value of it. Not with us. It's all donations, and anything that a donor gets is a premium, not a product. So it's not an issue.
Thank you, Mr. Hirschman. Okay, we're back to the motion again to set aside $700 for the Rocky Horror Picture Show movie. Do we have any objections to this motion? Okay, take it to roll call. Ms. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Yeah, just give me 1 second because I need to duplicate my little sheet here. Mr. Fauch?
Aye.
Mr. Fiore?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Kane?
Yes.
Mr. Lalamont?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Labrie?
Nay.
Mr. Lutz?
Yes.
Mr. One second, so, Ms. Necron, that's with legislative, right? Okay, correct, I didn't check my thing here, so, Mr. Chair, it is 8 in favor, 1 opposed.
Okay, that passes. We have $700 set aside. Dana, would you get in touch with Mr. Fouch and make the arrangements?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else you want to? add your-
Let's see. No, everything else I believe I can go over in my agenda item.
Okay. I mistakenly skipped over communications. So communications, your board report?
Yes, so on Sunday, we did a social media organization. So I am forming a social media review committee, and I've already asked Karen.
Josh, we're having a hard time hearing you. Would you speak up a little bit, please?
One person. So, sorry. So on Sunday, we did a social media training organization messaging kind of meeting. I'm forming a social media review committee. I've asked Karen Ann Harlos and Hannah Goodman and Mark Cabin to be on the committee, and they've all said yes. And I'm probably gonna be looking for one more person. So, but the meeting went pretty good, so I think the messaging will be good right now.
Okay, any questions of Communications Director, Ms. Harlos?
I believe also, I'll speak up, at that meeting, are you still in the process of creating like a, what did we say, like an overall philosophy?
Yes, I'm gonna be putting that in my business plan, and I'll be sending that out by next week.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Josh?
Yeah, Josh,
Mr. Ryan?
we were talking about getting you some tools to use. Did you come up with any specifically, or like a budget that would help for you guys to post like cross-platform at the same time, plan posts, like get analytics, like stuff like that?
So I've been playing with a couple of apps like Hootsuite, Hookle, and Facebook Business Suite. Right now I'm playing with the free options. So I want to see if the paid versions would actually be worth it. So I don't want to spend money unless I have to. So, but I think they should be worth good. So.
Yeah, I'll just say like those would be like really worth it, and like the impressions and people you'd reach like a day, you know, it's thousands of people. It's like just extremely high value return on that money, and we should basically just give Josh whatever he asks for because he's gonna be a little shy and very responsible with that money. So if you wanted to make a motion, I would second that.
I'm not ready to make a motion to spend money yet, so I want to play with it because I'm using the free versions of them, and I think they are working fine. So I want to give them a lot more time before I decide if the paid versions would be worth it. So.
Gotcha, dude.
Okay, any other questions of Josh? Legislative. We have not formally accepted Jennifer's resignation. I will go ahead and make a motion that we accept her resignation, and we have also, I'll add to this that we have put out a request for others that may want to take that spot, and we've had a couple people show interest, but we're going to let that go for a little longer. So right now, the motion before you is to accept the resignation of Jennifer Nackaroo. Do we have any objections to that? Hearing none, Next, we will go to membership. Excuse me, second membership, Mr. Atkin.
I'm putting out a email blast Wednesday. Wanted to know if you wanted to write something about the legislative position to go in. Okay.
And I've got a couple other things for you
Okay.
too, so I'll make a note and I'll get you some things.
Point of order. Motion.
Mr. Lutz?
The motion didn't seek a second, which was put as part of the standing rules for
You
this
are
committee.
Do we have a second on accepting Jennifer's?
Seconded.
Any objections? That passes, and thank you for catching me on that, Mr. Lutz. Right now, we are real close to 8 o'clock, and Chris Lucchini should be calling in at 8 o'clock, so I think we should.
He's already online.
Yeah, he's on the line.
Okay. Mr. Lucchini, thank you for joining us.
How are you guys doing?
Good. Give us an update on what's happening with Region 1.
There's been a lot of turmoil, as you guys all know. I've been in communication with almost all of the state affiliates, made some good connections with Nevada. I'm going to be helping them with their candidate support and candidate selection process, which they're starting very late in my opinion, but as soon as Brian Elliott gets back from his trip, I'm supposed to get an introduction to their committee to help them get started on that. There are some efforts in Arizona that I'm hoping to help with as well in similar regard, basic elections type stuff. From a high level, I guess let me assume that people don't know what's going on. So the prior region rep resigned. We went through an election process. Alex Flores out of Arizona was selected as the alternate. And I've been trying to make contact with all of the state affiliates to find out where they stand now, given all the changes that have happened, both changes in leadership at the state level, as well as changes in level of effort being expended and so forth. Other than those two states, Arizona and Nevada, and obviously I'm also chair of New Mexico, for those of you who don't know. I don't really have a whole lot to report in terms of the activities. I've had a fair number of conversations with Tim out of Oregon and Ann out of Washington as well. So if you guys have any questions, it might be a simpler way to go forward.
Any questions of Mr. Lucchini? Mr. Atkin?
Chris, will you be at the Region 1 training, and do you want to say anything about that?
I will not, however, our state field director will be at that training, as well as I think two of our potential candidates, actually, one's a campaign manager, one's a candidate. That, thank you for bringing that, by the way. The Region 1 training is this upcoming weekend, Saturday in Salt Lake. I believe there's still slots open, so if anybody is interested in attending, let me know as soon as, or just let me know right now, and I'll take a note and hook you up with the appropriate people. The intent here is to train not only candidates, and we've always done the candidate training, but also campaign managers. And this is something that I discovered this last election cycle, how important that was. We had somebody who came in at the very last minute after a disastrous debate performance by one of our candidates, and was able to essentially salvage at least a portion of that election, and salvage some momentum, I think, in the future for that particular candidate. We have a ballot access candidate who is a judicial candidate. He's a lawyer, so he's going to run for an available open slot. He had a campaign manager. Our default candidate that spends no money in New Mexico gets 5%. Our ballot access requirement is 5%. It's a very scary number to be dancing around. This candidate got essentially 7.5% on a total spend of $5,000. I got a major mega donor to write him a $5,000 check. And so that campaign manager now has the experience about how to effectively spend that kind of money, which, by the way, is not as obvious as you would think. I never thought that classical music stations would be where you would want to advertise, but I was wrong. So if you're trying to reach a particular demographic, that can be an effective technique. So anybody who doesn't want to be a candidate, does not want to be the face of the party, but is wanting to help specifically get people elected or get people the experience necessary to become elected, I encourage you to go to this training. There's others available if you can't make this upcoming weekend.
Any more questions of Mr. Lucchini?
Chris, you said it was this upcoming weekend?
Well, unless I'm confused here, give me a second.
Well, one of us is confused. It could probably
Yeah,
is me.
okay, yeah. Well, I've been confused before. Region 1 candidate training is, yes, it's the 17th.
Okay, that's this upcoming weekend?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just
We have a question from Mr. Griffith. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, is the training going to be recorded?
I do not know. I can find out.
Thanks.
And would you please, when you find out, Chris, send me an email to that effect? Mr.
I'll send it out to all of the Region 1 chairs.
Okay,
Yes, but definitely we'll send it out.
thank you. Mr. Atkin, you have another question?
I believe all of the trainers have been asked to record their sessions.
Okay. By the way, I do have, speaking of the Region 1 list, I do have a request. If you have not already done so, and I'm assuming because Ms. Harlos is secretary that you have done so, make sure that all of your executive officials have been updated in the CRM. We have a persistent problem when people have multiple roles in the CRM. So I'm a donor, I'm a state chair, and I'm on the LNC. It turns out that when they designed the CRM, they didn't plan for people having these kinds of multiple roles. And so I still have a persistent problem that one of the vice chairs, we put him on the Region 1 email list, and every midnight he gets wiped off again. We're going to test this tomorrow to see if he's back on this list. So please try to update your executive board members in the CRM. Anyone else?
Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Lucchini. We appreciate your time, and we'd love to have you every month if you can. If you can't, you're already forgiven. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks. Talk to you later.
All right, now we are to membership. Membership report, please.
Yeah, beyond what's included in my report, we had a CU student reach out to our Twitter account who is starting a libertarian club. So I was working with him and meeting with some of the school people on that. So we're hoping to get that kicked off.
May I ask, CU Boulder or?
CU Boulder.
Okay.
Going into the future, I think he was kind of interested in some kind of endorsement from the party itself. So I'm going to talk to him more about that to see exactly what he's interested in, and that might be an email motion or something at the August meeting. And then it looks like we're pushing back the deadlines on that are submitted in my report for the newsletter. Having some trouble finding volunteers specifically just for who are familiar with like InDesign or Publisher or something like that. Going forward, I might have to propose that we spend some kind of money to get a license for one of these publishing softwares, just because that might be actually kind of a hiccup for some people who don't own that or have access to that otherwise but know how to use it. So that's my report update.
Okay. Any questions? Ms. Harlos?
The Adobe Suite subscription's not that bad to get it for one of those design programs. So I'd support that if we end up having to do that, because I'm sure we'd use it for other things as well. I had a question about on your report. So these counts, like the potential candidate count and the volunteer count, is this from our database?
Yeah, this is what I requested from Mr. Eichen.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding it. That was it.
Okay. Mr. Lutz?
If you have access to an Adobe InDesign program, I was trained by the Defense Information School on how to do InDesign layouts and stuff like that for newsletters and newspapers and all that kind of stuff. I'd be more than happy to help.
Awesome, thank you.
Beautiful, thank you, Mr. Lutz. Any other questions? Okay, outreach.
All right, so in the last 30 days, we had our open mic night. We had an astounding turnout. Kyle showed up, and so did Mr. Reese here, and we had a lot of beers, and then that was that. And and we'll see what happens at the next turnout. It was a fun time though, and we ended up hitting the city afterwards. So. The Discord server, we hit 100 users in the Discord server. Really exciting what's going on there because people are very active. A lot of really real-time communication. For example, one of our potential candidates, Brian Poulter, yesterday, he's asking for some data, and I just said, hey, drop me a link, and then I was able to get him a spreadsheet, and then he just grabbed the spreadsheet, filtered it by what he was looking for, and started calling people. So a lot of really good real-time communication going on in there. That's exciting. And this will kind of bleed over to the ad hoc website committee stuff, so I'll try to like separate that out. But I got our data set, our contact list, scaffold out a API database with GIS capabilities, and just a very basic front end right now. I can kind of show you guys what that will look like. So sorry people online, but we basically have some mapping functionality. We have all of our contacts in here. I have not put a ton of dev time into it, but we have our data and we have a lot of stuff we can do with our data that will be coming forward. And we have an API to query the data, so you know, all the foundations set to start building like our own unique tools that we can use for campaigns like what I mentioned with Brian specifically. Especially having, you know, the GIS capabilities will be really important for all this redistricting that just happened, and just all sorts of other things like target ads and stuff like that. So we'll have features coming out for this in the next 30 days or so. What else? Yeah, as far as like CRM, I can start building CRM features into this, but I would also recommend that we consider using like a more professional CRM like Microsoft Dynamics that has like a ton of tools. It's a little bit pricey, but you do get a lot of like flexibility and features with that you know would really help a lot of people. I'm not going to motion for that yet. I know people, a lot of people in the LP are working on very specific pitches for just to use that CRM, but we're going to wait 30 days because it's kind of like evolving right now, and we'll see what happens here with this platform I'm developing on. Yeah, outreach, that's good to go. We can just move into my next agenda item if you guys want to. So we'll move into the next agenda item, the ad hoc website committee. We did not actually.
Hang on, we're not there yet.
Okay.
Yeah, there might be.
We have a, that's the next agenda item, but we're not past your report yet. Does anybody have any questions with Ryan for what he's gone over so far?
I have one question. Do we have any outreach events coming up?
We have several outreach events. Nothing that I've planned specifically at like the party level, but also I discovered we have a Libertarians of Colorado meetup account, and then it has plenty of events coming up in the next 30 days. I can pull them up here in a second if you want me to. But or you could just go there and check them out.
I just didn't know if we had any state ones because I'd like going.
Not state specifically, but yeah, definitely open to anything right now.
Mr. Lutz?
What did we find out about the whole liquor licensing thing that was gonna be kind of brought in conjunction with the open mic nights?
Yeah, so it costs $120. You get 26. No, sorry, it's half that. It's like you get 12 special liquor license, special event liquor license a year. It costs $120 per special event liquor license. So we could have a bi-weekly special event if we want for the rest of the year. But if you want more than that, it ends up you have to pay like for like a full event liquor license, and then you get it for basically every day, and that ends up being, I think it's like $4,000. So if you're not gonna make over $120 on alcohol, it's not worth it. Yeah, and then there's it kind of puts into question the event space, because like there's all sorts of, as you guys know, the government, they like to classify things in different ways, and I don't know if the event space is going to want to be involved in that specifically, but yeah, I mean it's super possible. We would have to have a larger event for it to make sense.
Mr. Kane, I have a question for you concerning outreach events. If we don't have anything on the state level, I think it might be to our advantage to start looking at some of the county fairs and things like that to get an outreach booth set up. And that might be an option for us because the county fair season is coming up very shortly.
El Paso is currently happening.
But we still have, I don't remember Parker Days is still happening, but Douglas County is still having their fair. And we could have a booth there, or if we get the signs, we could do a walk in the parade. And that's the next question is, where do we stand on the signs?
Signs, yeah, we have a list of signs, potentially, Josh has just formed that committee. I'm going to, talk to that committee and just have them filter out some of the signs with me, and then we can order them in the next week or so.
Okay, let's put a priority on that because, like I said, parade season is coming up. And there's nothing more fun than walking a parade with a shock sign. That gets more people giving us thumbs up, gives us an opportunity to hand out invites, information stuff that has to do with the party. It's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for the local county affiliates as well as for the state. So I'm going to request that you make that a priority, get those signs ordered so they're ready.
Sure, we'll get that done this week.
Great, thank you.
Speaking of shock signs, this is probably relevant. Ms. Harlos, have you put a plan together for a billboard?
No.
More than what we talked on
Yeah,
Saturday?
no, not yet, because it's only been a couple days, but I will.
Okay.
It's on my list. After Saturday, I had the LNC meeting on Sunday, and today all the RCV balloting and all that. So no, it's like at the top of my radar. I did put feelers out on the Discord earlier today about it, like we discussed, but. By next meeting, I'll have something pretty comprehensive. And that was one of the other things when I said, David, I got a couple more things for your email. One was to ask about if there's any libertarians that own any billboards too. So that's all in my plan for that email for David as well.
Cool.
Any other questions of Mr. King? Without objection, go ahead, Natalie.
I used to organize events and had to set up like going to festivals and so forth, and one of the things that some of the festival organizers offer is if you sponsor a contest, you will get a booth to do that, and you're pretty much your money out is you want to do tie-dye shirts for kids sponsored by the LPCO, something like that. So I only mention that because that's one way to avoid booth costs and get your name out, and it is a little more, it is very fun.
Thank you, Natalie. Anything else with Mr. King? Okay, next item of business is committee reports. Next item is the ad hoc website committee. Go ahead, Mr. King. I think you're heading this one up.
Yeah, so we didn't actually meet. Definitely talked to Mario, who's another developer working on this, and bought the lpco.org domain, so I own that. Good job not buying that, guys. And so we don't have to like take anything down. We can put up a demo on that, and you guys can check that out if you want. And then we can go from there. We have a meeting scheduled with David this week. So we're not gonna do anything with that specifically, like right now, but that's gonna be something else that's gonna unfold in the next 30 days. So, that's the update for that.
Okay. Any questions on that?
So this committee's gonna keep going and working on things?
Yeah, it'll come, it'll be 30 days, 30 more days.
Okay.
And then I'll have something to show.
Okay. Next item is a messaging committee. And this was something that Josh already touched on in his report. Do you have anything to add to that, Josh?
No, I'm just looking for like maybe 1 or 2 more people, but pretty much no.
Okay. We have special order of business here, which we have already taken care of. Mr. Lucchini has already spoken, so we're going to go to unfinished business. And we have, first item on record here is Mr. Lutz moved that the fundraising be given a $10,000 budget earmarked for convention expenses and hotel deposit.
And I had a pending substitute that's right underneath it.
That is correct. Ms. Harlos moved to substitute motion that the treasurer be directed to continue the informal practice of setting aside $1,000 a month for convention expenses until such time as the convention committee is seated and can come to the board with a more formal budget set-aside request. So, is this treated as an amendment or as?
No, it's a substitute.
Okay.
You want me to explain?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have Mr. Lutz's original motion and my substitute. They kind of exist side by side. Either can be amended independently. When they're both perfected, the first decision that's made is, shall the substitute be the main motion or shall the original main motion be the main motion? Then once it's decided what the main motion is, then we vote on it. But right now, they both exist to be amended and argued for concurrently.
Okay. I'm guessing the substitute motion would be heard first.
No, they're heard concurrently. They both exist.
So are we just gonna talk over each other?
Well,
That should be fun.
anybody can speak to either of them or amend either of them.
I would defer to Ms. Harlos in the substitute motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to just speak to it once more. Is coming up in the agenda, we're gonna be talking about the convention committee because we have a bylaws mandated deadline to seat the convention committee by next meeting. And I just think that putting any kind of hold on any kind of budget before we have the committee is putting the cart before the horse, and that we should wait for the convention committee to make a formal ask. And that committee we got to seat them real soon. I mean, it's for our bylaws, so that's why I said this. And we're already putting aside $1,000 a month, so the money is getting put aside. So,
Who else would like to speak to either one of these?
Yeah,
Mr. Payton?
I'll say like the 10,000. I totally am for giving Mr. Lutz the money to come into a negotiation, so he's got it ready to go. But it's just the $10,000 just seems like a ton of money to spend in 3 days, and so. And then also we have this committee that's waiting to be formed. I'll say if we don't have that handled in 30 days, I'm gonna be for giving Mr. Lutz that money, but I don't want to give him all that money.
and you know, he looks a little shady.
That's because I never leave my hole in the mountain.
That's because I'm shady.
Any
He's
other
stacking
discussion?
Krugerrands in his basement with it.
You have something to say?
No.
Okay. No, Mr. Lutz, go ahead.
So I do want to say, one, as far as the committee goes, as far as I've read, the committee could be me, myself, and I. Because as the fundraising director, it's my job to pick the committee. Didn't remember seeing anything in the provisions of the bylaws of the size of the committee. So I could appoint myself the sole convention committee. Will not be doing that. As a matter of fact, I'll be writing up a bylaws change to set parameters for an actual convention committee for in the future. In particular, I want to see all of the affiliates have a guaranteed seat on that, so that it can be stood up basically within a month of convention concluding. That being said, I have been calling around to hotels already and starting to get the groundwork done. The first question out of every salesperson's mouth, so what kind of budget are you working with? To which I have to say, I don't know. Somewhere around 10,000 maybe, we hope. And I have, right now in Glenwood Springs, the Hotel Colorado is about the only option. And that's what other hotels are telling me when I call them and let them know what we're looking to do. They're saying that Hotel Colorado is the only one that really has the facilities that we need all in one. Otherwise, we're contracting with an event center and a hotel and this and that. That being said, the 3 packages that I have seen from Hotel Colorado, and these will be presented to the board obviously before we make any kind of formal vote on where, how much, and all that, place it between $7,000 and $11,000 depending on which thing we go with, how much we spend on food, and what have you. There's a few people I've already reached out to be either on the committee or advisors to the committee, because unfortunately some of them have left the LP. But yes, by next meeting, I'm hoping to have at least 4 other individuals that will be the standing committee for the convention.
Good.
And after all of that, I think Mrs. Harlow's substitute motion for now will suffice. So am I able to withdraw my motion in favor
Yes,
of
it hasn't
Ms.
been
Harlow?
stated yet, so you
Oh, no, it was stated last meeting, you would need to.
There was a second.
Yes, there was. This
Was
was
it?
last meeting. This
Mhm.
was postponed.
You can ask the board to allow you to withdraw.
I would ask that the board allow me to withdraw this motion without objection.
Anybody object to Daniel withdrawing his motion? Hearing none, we are back to Ms. Harlow's substitute motion. Yes.
How much did we roughly spend last time on the convention, or?
John, can you answer that question?
I wanna say, 18,000.
That's the number that was in my head
That's
too.
overall,
Yeah.
That's for speakers and everything.
that's everything, not just the venue.
The venue's usually about 12.
Okay.
My experience with negotiating with the hotels is that they typically ask for roughly half as a deposit, and then they can take the rest usually a month ahead of time, and every hotel's different. Mr. Kane?
Question for Ms. Harlos. Yeah, I think you also kind of agree with me that this is a ton of money, and you said other states don't spend that much money. What do other states do for these yearly conventions? Like, got any option or got any ideas here?
Well, they don't make it like the philosophy has always been in the LPCO, and I've always been the minority report disagree, that it's the biggest fundraising event of the year. You stress the hell out of everyone to put on this big thing that you hope you're gonna make money at and make it this big gala. My opinion is our convention is to do party business, and you can rent a room and get everyone to do party business and plan all these speakers and stuff for special events throughout the year and not have this big 3-day thing. Because I've been pinch hit convention chair twice because prior convention chairs dropped the ball. And like one year it stressed me out so bad everyone thought I had fucking cancer because I lost like 30 pounds doing that shit. It's horrible in my view. It's so stressful. We're always worried if we're gonna make money. While if we plan for special fundraising events throughout the year with speakers, we're not competing with speakers during convention season. It can be a 1-day thing. We could do it much more economically. We don't kill anybody. And just rent a hall for $2,000 and do party business and go home. That's how like the LP of Virginia does it. You can talk to Mark Montoni, who's organized a ton of Virginia conventions, where he had said like 5,000 max, maybe, and they would make that up by having vendor booths who would be there all through the convention. But they didn't make a big hoo-ha out of it. That's always been my view. But again, people who are been in this party way longer than me and who are really good fundraisers disagree. Like Michelle Pogue and Betty Rose Ryan, I don't want to discount their opinion. They've been in the party way longer than me. So I do want to say that very talented people disagree with me, but that's my opinion.
So basically, we're just looking at setting aside $1,000 for July, $1,000 in August, and roughly at that point, we'll have a convention committee who can figure out the expenses for the rest of it.
That's was my substitute,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
But I did want to add one thing. Actually, the bylaws say the board appoints the convention committee.
Do they? Because
Yeah.
I thought I remember reading under the fundraising director's
I'm looking.
description.
I was making sure there wasn't a conflict. It says the fundraising director can establish and manage committees, but then later on in the bylaws, it says, one second here. It's after the style committee. Where
While they're looking, I really like the idea of having like a couple $1,000 event quarterly or something like that. We have this gorgeous state and people all over all these rural areas. We can
Just
have
trying to find it.
events in
Okay, let me not look at
different
convention. Let me look at
gorgeous
style. It's in the
national
same
parks
section as the
instead of
style
like
committee.
meeting in a hotel and blowing
The
like
convention
half our
committee
budget
shall be
in 3
appointed by
days.
the board within 90 days.
I love that
so
idea.
the board
People
needs
could
to
come
seek
to see that Colorado
Yeah,
was more than
and I have that on the
once.
agenda for later.
Yeah, 'cause if it was
It's also
a quarter,
sand
One
mountains.
at a time, you guys, we've got too many people talking at once.
I was just clarifying the bylaws.
Okay.
So-
Does that answer your question, Reese?
Yeah.
And that decision about what to recommend to the board as to our kind of convention will be a decision of the convention committee. They will come with their recommendation and the board can approve it or disapprove it. So keep that in mind when appointing the convention committee, I would say.
We will hear from Mr. Seebeck if we have no objections. Go ahead, Mr. Seebeck.
Okay, just as a data point, the unconvention that we did last year, what type of revenue did that generate?
I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't remember.
We could probably find out from Michelle.
It's a curiosity
We
question.
can,
It's a
but there's a
contrast.
problem because a lot of the tickets that were sold for our convention that was canceled, people allowed the state party to keep their ticket
That's not what he's
costs
talking about.
as a, as a donation. And so I don't think last year would be a good measuring stick.
That's fair. Just a curiosity.
No, he meant the second convention.
That's what he was referring to, but in their fundraising, they had it all lumped into one. So it's not a good measuring stick.
That's fair, I wasn't sure.
So my motion is live.
Ms. Harless has made a motion to substitute.
Well, that's now the main motion because he withdrew.
Yep, I'm reading it again. Ms. Harless moved that the treasurer be directed to continue the informal practice of setting aside $1,000 a month for convention expenses until such time as the convention committee is seated and can come to the board with a more formal budget set-aside request. We have a second on that.
Second.
Any discussion?
We just did all the discussion, I think.
I'd just add that I would vote for Daniel to get the same amount of money to have 4 conventions spread out throughout the state. Just an idea. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Well, it wouldn't be you mean like events?
Like a quarterly event, and then we could have
Fundraising.
fundraising and momentum instead of like a once a year thing.
Okay, that's another idea on the table, but that is not a motion. Did you make it a formal motion?
It's just
I
discussion.
don't think so. Okay. Any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passed. So Nathan, please put aside $1,000 a month and earmark that towards the convention expenses.
Roger that.
Okay, next we have some more unfinished business. Considering the wrapper for the outreach trailer, not outreach supplies, I got a quote of 700 and I got a quote of 300. And I haven't been able to figure out what the differences between the two products are. They're using a different type of wrap. So I'm still working on this, so I think we're going to have to move this to, once again, to next month. Ms. Harlos, would you move that to the agenda for next month?
You're moving to postpone, definitely.
Postpone definitely to next month.
You're gonna
Seconded.
take it. Okay. I'm trying to get you to be a little more formal.
The next item of business was... Any objection to postponing? Hearing none, that will be postponed to next month. Next item of business is movie night, and Mr. Luce just left the room. So we will move to the next item here, adoption of the policy manual. Ms. Harlos, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, well, actually, the next item was letter to RCB Colorado.
Oh, you're right, forgive me, I missed it.
And I would like to speak to that. That's under new business, though I messed up something in the letter that I'll need to fix because I had all my dates all screwed up. But let me just tell you what it's about. I'm very involved with RCB Colorado. I'm on their policy committee. They had a activist event. I thought it was this coming weekend. It was actually past weekend.
May you clarify the acronym RCV?
Oh, ranked choice voting.
Okay, thank you.
And in order to go out and do canvassing for them, they were requiring, and this is an outdoor thing, that everybody be vaccinated. And the LPCO has been a supporter of alternative voting and a supporter of both approval voting and ranked choice voting. And I was gonna sign up for that event, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And I suggest that we express some disapproval to RCB Colorado for this policy, and I'd like to read aloud a letter that I would like the board to authorize the chair to sign to send to RCB Colorado, and I'll correct it as I'm reading it because I messed up some dates. So, dear Ms. Templin, she's the representative for RCB Colorado. Our secretary, Karen Ann Harlos, who is also the national secretary, alerted us to a requirement that RCB Colorado is imposing upon volunteers for its political opportunity past weekend, that being having submitted to have a COVID vaccine. This is completely unacceptable to the Libertarian Party of Colorado. As you know, the LPCO and Ms. Harlos have been vocal supporters of your cause, and the new board is eager to promote and assist, but this is a deal breaker for us. It is completely violative of bodily autonomy to require someone to permanently alter their body in order to participate in civic volunteer life, and we refuse to be a part of that. We support RCB on principle, but a higher principle, self-ownership, prevails. I imagine that many conservative groups would feel the same, so unless you are intending to make RCB Colorado primarily sympathetic to the left, we urge you to modify that stance to simply politely ask people to be vaccinated and leave it up to them. But be absolutely clear, the LPCO will not promote or urge its activists to hit the streets for your organization if you're going to insist upon creating two classes of citizens and discriminating against those who cannot be vaccinated as well as those who choose not to be. On a related note, as you know, myself and Ms. Harlos are planning on petitioning to get ranked choice on the ballot in Castle Rock. We cannot succeed without the support of RCB Colorado, but if you are going to impose this vaccination requirement on petitioning volunteers, we will need to withdraw our intentions and find other political causes to pursue in Castle Rock. Please let us know. And Liberty, Wayne Harlos, Chair, Libertarian Party of Colorado. So I'd like the board to approve sending this letter to that organization.
Do we have any discussion on this? Need a formal motion?
Yeah, I'm moving that the board approve you.
Second, okay. Any objections?
I wouldn't mind just a little bit of discussion.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna vote for this. I like the letter and I like the cause. I just want us to always keep in mind when we're dealing with other private organizations that it is also a position of the Libertarian Party that private organizations have a right to be as unreasonable as they can be, including asking people what would be considered unreasonable things. If they're not a publicly funded organization, if they're a private organization, as I understand them to be, that is kind of their right to ask people to be vaccinated to participate in their events.
Okay, we have Ms. Goodman.
But also with that right becomes the right to criticize and also have your voice heard and make a stand and say, I'm not willing to support you through this, so you no longer have my business. And that's to me what this letter is doing.
Reese, you're next.
Also, I mean, we are talking about a vaccine that is being paid for and pushed by the state, so I don't really see any moral opposition, in my opinion, to pushing this letter.
Ms. Harlows?
Also, this is withdrawing our support from them. They can decide whether our support is worth it or not, but in the trajectory they're going now, they're only going to appeal to the left, and they need to be aware of that. But also, I actually disagree with you, Mr. Lutz. I do not think any organization has the right to ask anybody to permanently alter their body. I do not think that is something even somebody, and I've used it, and I know libertarians disagree, but I did a whole show on this, but I don't, just like you can't sell yourself into slavery, you can't have certain requirements that require a permanent alienation of something of your body. You just can't. I think that is completely immoral and unethical. Just like you can't say, you know, if you're gonna rent from me, you gotta give me your kidney.
Mr. Lutz?
I think there's an awesome discussion me and you should have
Sure.
later on.
And
But that one, I would love to.
I would love for you to hear my whole video on it too, so you just know the whole
I've
background.
listened
Okay.
to part of it, yeah. I did like it.
Though we don't go there in this letter, but I just wanted to lodge, but if they want the support of libertarians, I don't think we can countenance creating two classes of activists.
Oh, I would agree.
And even if, I'm not vaccinated, by the way, but even if I were, I would refuse to participate in the event because I won't be party to creating two classes of civic activists.
I got something to say.
Go ahead, Nathan. Is it Nathan?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, it's nobody's business, regardless, corporation, private business, I don't give a shit. It's nobody's business what my medical history is. I would never tell you, and I would definitely never support anybody who says that I have to get vaccinated, ever. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Fauch. Mr. Lutz, you have one more thing?
I just want to kind of clarify because I get the feeling that maybe my point may have been misunderstood. I just want to be sure that we don't step on our own crank when it comes to our views on property rights and private organizations and private individuals' rights to deal with people how they see fit. I think we would all agree everyone has the right to say this person or that person cannot come on my property for whatever reason or set whatever conditions. Maybe you have to give me a kidney to come on my property, but no one's forcing you to go on that property either. Like I said, I'm going to support this. I like this letter, and I think it's a really good thing. But I just want to make sure that we're always careful not to step on ourselves.
Thank you, Mr. Lutz. Any further discussion?
One other thing I want to add, not to argue with that because we're starting to go into the weeds and we'll do that privately, but it was very difficult for me to ask the board to do this because I'm a huge supporter of RCV Colorado. And I'm basically saying, I'm not gonna do shit for you guys anymore if you continue to stand. So this was a very, very difficult thing for me to bring to the board, but there's a higher principle involved.
Okay, are we ready to bring this to a vote? Any objections? Hearing none, we will get that letter out. Next item of business is movie night, Mr. Lutz. You've already covered that. Do you want to go over it again?
This is actually a little bit different. So I talked about the Rocky Horror Picture Show for the 50th. The movie night is actually, I took a little inspiration from Mr. Kane with the open mic nights, and we might be able to pull a little bit more attendance to justify one of those liquor licenses if we look at a potential movie night. Does everyone have, I know I sent it out via email, I didn't get it on the initial announcement, but I did send it out via email, a small attachment with
It's in
a
there too.
breakdown.
Under
Oh, it is?
new
Okay.
business movie night, I pulled your attachment into there.
Okay, so the only formal one that I got was from MPLC, the Movie Picture Licensing Company. That's why it looks so nice. I kind of wrote up Criterion and Swank stuff myself because it's been a little bit more informal email communication. So it ultimately comes down to what we want to do. MPLC, the Motion Picture Licensing Company, is going to be our most cost-effective option. The thing is, we will likely have to tie that to a location. For instance, if you look in there, they've got outdoor parks, rec centers, community HOAs, camps and RV parks. This falls under a recreational center. So for $615 a year, we can show as many movies here as they will let us. And this includes stuff from Disney, stuff from Paramount, the big picture, new release type stuff gets added into that. There are some conditions though. Anything that we show from MPLC, we cannot charge admission. This is a mostly education and community-based thing. So they don't, anything that they're doing, they want it to keep it focused on education and community, not profit. That being said, we can charge for alcohol. We can charge for ancillary stuff. We can put a fish bowl, you know, if people want to throw donations in as they're walking through the door. We're more than capable of doing that stuff. Advertisement, we cannot do. So we can't put out to the public, hey, Libertarian Party of Colorado is showing National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation at the Independence Institute. We can't do that. We can say, we have a summer movie at the Independence Institute. Or we can send an internal email to our members telling them what it is.
I believe I read that you can do direct mail and message
email.
your email list.
Yes,
so
but they
good to
have
go.
to be party members.
We got a bit of those in the email list. So.
Oh, I know. I'm not too worried about getting the word out to people. Reese?
If we have like a Facebook, like an official Facebook group or something, does that count as a?
No, that we would have to, so social media sites, if we put the information out there because non-members of our organization are able to see that, that counts as a public facing thing, and that's where the creativity would have to come in.
What about a private group, like our Discord channel?
Potentially that would be fine, but I'd want to talk to and get a little bit more working relationship with them before we start towing those lines a little too much. If we even get anything going with them. They've also got one-offs that we can do in parks and stuff like that. So we had talked about getting out to the fringes of Colorado. Locking something into the Independence Institute puts us in Denver. Could be good, but we also want to hit the fringes. We want to help our candidates. We want to help our party out there for anywhere from $200 to $700, and this includes Criterion and Swank. We can take and get a licensing for a movie to take it out to a park in an outside county.
Ms. Cooper?
And actually in the rural areas, like our library does movies in the summer, and they are really creative with their, and it actually does have a really high turnout. And I can speak to the rural areas because guess what, guys? There's not a lot to do out there. You could cow tip or you could go to the movie. That's what we have going on.
You can't cow tip at the movies?
You can.
Mr. King?
I would love to hold some events in national parks. Like, it's just such
And
a
that-
gorgeous state, and like we could go drink some beers and watch a movie. That gives me excuses to go all over the place, which I'm gonna already try to do anyway. So I would love that.
And the advantage of working with either Criterion or Swank is that, now they would be one-off events, and we have to keep very close track of what our ticket sales and stuff like that are, because they take about 50 to 60% is their cut of whatever the ticket sales are when we do that kind of stuff like that. But if we are working with them, that gives us a lot more leeway on advertising, that gives us a lot more leeway on fundraising and making our own money off of the event. because that's how they make money as well. If we work with the Motion Picture Licensing Company, I would recommend if we do anything with them, we talk to the Independence Institute and look at getting a movie license tied to the Independence Institute for local showings that we can do, local events.
Okay. We will hear from Mr. Griffith if we don't have any objections. Go ahead.
So, Daniel, this is just one-way information. One of the things that you might want to look at is the Stapleton HOA. They have a band shell that I don't think is used a whole lot, and it's surrounded by $1 million homes. So that's at the old Stapleton location.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith. Daniel, you did not have a motion tied to this discussion?
No, I did not. This was mainly for everyone's information, so that they can start looking through this kind of stuff, generating some questions, different ideas, and my intent is to have a motion ready for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Next item, you had a question?
I was gonna say, I kinda like the idea of tying this into the open mic night, like if we did an hour of open mic followed by a movie or something like that. I think that's kind of instead of, having a bunch of these different events, it might be just kind of good to have, combine a few of these together.
I like that.
Especially if we're trying to conserve liquor licenses.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. Next item of business is the adoption of the policy manual. Ms. Harless, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I mentioned this last time, did kind of the introduction of it last time, and did the Hill of Foreskins argument, which was memorable. Several people experienced with writing policy manuals had prepared this for the last board who declined to adopt it, didn't even offer amendments or anything like that. Professional political parties have policy manuals. That's what you do once you start to enter the bigger leagues. We're one of the few of the top 10 affiliates that does not have one. And it's about time that we did professionalize our operations. And as I said last time, a policy manual, I hate using the term living document, but that's what it is. It can be amended quite easily by the board. If there's anything that's in the one that's already been proposed that ends up not working for us, we can always move to suspend the rules, and we could always move to permanently amend it. But we need to get one in place to start working with it and tailor it as we go to our needs. I believe that the one that was written, I went through it again to make sure it was still up to date. Mr. Seebeck went through it for style considerations, is ready for adoption by this board. And again, if we find some provision in it that's just not working for us, we can amend it with a 50% vote. But
And that's at the monthly board meetings, guys. We don't
have to wait for
the
convention. These are our policies. So I'm going to move to adopt the version 2 of the policy manual that I sent around to the board last week. I've already spoken to it.
We have a second? Do we have a second?
I will second it only for discussion.
Fair enough, that's what it's for. Okay, we have something to discuss.
Yes, I agree with Ms. Harless. We need a policy manual. I do not think we need this one tonight. I was looking at it, and as a matter of fact, I think you just said, Mr. Harlos, if we wanted to amend it, we could do that at the next meeting with a 50% vote. Well, if we adopt it, we need 2/3, according to my reading of the policy manual.
Yeah, you do need 2/3 to initially adopt it.
Well, you need 2/3 to amend it then too, because the only thing that needs the only thing that would get a majority or a 51% vote at that point was anything that was not previously brought to the board, according to the wording as I read it.
No, it would require, okay, here's where it gets a little bit ticklish. There's 2 parts of the policy manual. It consists of standing rules and special rules of order. Standing rules can be adopted by a simple, stop using the word simple majority because that means plurality, a majority vote at any board meeting. The special rules of order require a 2/3 vote or a majority of the entire membership of the body, which is a majority of the board. That's a weird trick of Roberts in small bodies, where often you can amend it by the exception, which is less than the rule. So no, the policy manual can be amended by one of two ways: a majority vote of those present and voting, or a majority vote of the entirety of the board, which we usually have the entirety of the board at every meeting anyway. So no, it can be amended by a majority. It will not take a 2/3. A 2/3 is the alternate way, but on small bodies, the lesser threshold is the majority.
Okay. Any further discussion?
What's the point of a policy manual if the intention is that we'll suspend the rules if we don't like the policies written in it?
To suspend the rules without amending it is a 2/3. What it does is it grants continuity to, like, for example, now that particularly that we have a judicial committee, the policy manual protects everyone from the board being capricious and arbitrary. So say we had a certain policy that was in place to protect the members, but we willy-nilly just decided to suspend it or do whatever. If we don't have a policy manual, the member really has no recourse to go to the judicial committee. This protects everybody, but primarily it protects the members from us. And last term, we really wished we had that. So policies are in place so that everyone knows what footing they stand on, and to me, everyone should welcome that.
Yeah.
1 second. Anybody else from the board want to comment? Ms. Goodman?
So I got the email. I also had a surprise. I forgot my mom was coming. So I had a surprise house guest. I haven't fully read it. I just would like another month to go over it. I'm sorry I didn't get it ready.
No, that's a...
Mr. Lutz?
I was gonna say pretty much the same thing and then make a motion that we postpone this until next month's meeting.
I just want to... No,
We
it
have-
doesn't bother me.
I second.
We have, without objection, we have Ms. Seebeck who would like to contribute.
I was just gonna say, there's too many libertarians who tried to reinvent the wheel last term in particular, from 2018 to 2019 to 2021, tended to do an awful lot of that. And I think the policy manual is going to help get everybody in the same direction, so it's not quite so much herding of cats and a little more actual work. I think that would really be helpful, because it's been a real problem for a lot of LPs, and I think getting everybody in the same direction might actually, it through from one term to the next term to the next term would really be helpful to get the LPCO moving forward in a little bit better way.
I'm going to speak to this as well.
And I will have one other thing to add, but we still also do have the motion to postpone.
Yeah, I'm going to add one thing here. We can all look at ourselves and say, well, this board isn't going to get out of line. They're not going to step on members' rights. But without a policy manual in place, what happens when the next board comes on? We don't know who those people are going to be. So I think that creates a necessity there that really hasn't been discussed in any depth. But we do have a motion on the table to postpone definitely to next month. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second it as well, but I would hope that if the board would indulge me to just add one statement to this. Just as a reminder, of course, no one else is bound by this. I'm only bound to bring it. But I think we should all respect the fact that all of us were elected on certain platforms, and in my speech, I promised the delegates that I'd do everything I could for this board to pass a policy manual, and I was elected on that. So I would hope that this board would consider that that does have the approval of the delegates at convention, and take that into due consideration.
Okay.
I got a question about it.
Go ahead, Nathan.
Karen, we can turn that down. Section 21-C about abusive behavior.
Yes?
What does that entail? Because like, some students see any behavior, whether verbal or, excuse me?
I'm sorry, you're very
You
distorted.
just cut out for a second. Can you repeat that part?
All right. So C, it says any behavior, whether verbal or physical, that clearly offends or is intended to bully or intimidate a reasonable person. So does that include like me bullying and intimidating commies on Facebook?
The policy, no, I think you're allowed to bully commies.
Everybody needs a hobby.
If the introductory paragraph doesn't make that clear, this comes from the same policy that's been adopted at a lot of state levels. This is talking about in between members and doing party business. It's not talking about debates you have on Facebook. It's talking about when you're in your official capacity as your position, that you don't say you're going to kick somebody's ass. If you are yourself on your own time arguing with commies and they feel bullied.
I'm gonna say because I do it a lot.
Yeah, no, go for
a
it.
lot.
That's a feature, not a bug.
I want a clause for Nathan to bully commies.
I
want a special.
We can amend it later.
We can say except for commies, it's okay.
Lots of business to get through still, guys, here, so, do we have any further discussion on this that has not been raised?
The postponement, you mean?
Yes. Mr. Hirschman, if we don't have any objection? Go
On the
ahead.
policy manual itself, not on the, move it to next month. I don't really believe that you need a policy manual, but an awful lot of work went into it. And I think what I suggest that you simply have standing orders and special rules of order that are posted with the bylaws, so all the governing documents are there in one place. And don't call it a policy manual, because it really is. I was on the policy committee and I was kind of disappointed in the way it turned out, because I envisioned a manual, a policy manual, as something that's just, read like a book, this is what we do, blah, blah, blah. And what it was a bunch of rules. It was kind of like bylaws number 2, and that's why it didn't pass. When it came up for approval, that was basically the problem with it. And I really don't think you need to call it a manual.
Well, I don't care if we call it a
should,
peanut butter sandwich. It's standing rules and special rules of order.
Yeah, but I think the board should really consider it item by item. And if they approve it, it becomes a standing rule or a special rule of order, part of the documentation, part of the rules. I mean, that's just my feeling on it.
Thank you, John. Without objection, Mr. Seebeck?
Okay. I'm going to put on my systems engineering hat for a minute here. We have at our uppermost level of the party, we have our charter, we have our bylaws. We delve down farther into that for the bylaws, which give the structure and the framework of how we do things here. The policy manual gives more meat to what the bylaws say, more specifics. Below that, you have the continuity binders, where each individual board member will be detailing the processes that they employ to do what they do. Okay? From a systems engineering perspective, it goes from the abstract to more concrete, down to some systems call it a work instruction, some people call it a CSCI if you're in the software world. It gets more and more specific as you go along. We're at a mid-level here for a policy manual, which gives more meat to what the bylaws say that are being done, a little more specific, but not to the level of step A, B, C, and D. Special rules of order and standing rules serve the purpose of giving definition to some of the things that the bylaws say to do, without going into the super nitty-gritty to the point where every time you want to change something, you've got to make it a motion to amend it and go through all the debate and discussion and everything else that parliamentary procedure requires to get it there. It gives that mid-level to allow it to happen, to, shut up. Sorry, timer. To make it happen in a way that is flexible, to allow it to flesh out the details at the lower level where the work is actually done, guided by those rules, but not so broad that the bylaws leave everything wide open. So that there is a purpose to it. And it does, and when they're implemented correctly, it allows people to know what they're doing, but it gives them the flexibility to adjust what they're doing as they go, and lets them focus on what they're doing rather than worrying about having to change the rules every time they turn around.
Thank you, Mr. Seebeck. Any further discussion? The motion before you right now is to postpone definitely to next month. Policy manual vote. Do we have any objections to that? Hearing none, would you put that on the agenda for next month, Madam Secretary?
Mr. Chair, it's 9 o'clock.
Okay. We have, it looks like at least another half hour, maybe even an hour. Do we have a motion to extend our time tonight?
I move to extend time by 30 minutes.
Second?
Second, sorry, I was in a daze.
Okay. Any objections to a 30-minute extension?
I object.
Okay. Madam Secretary, would you take a roll call vote?
One moment. Did you, what? So are you ready for me to take the vote?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Fauch?
Object.
What? Is that no?
Mr.
It
Chair,
was a no.
please read the vote and how we're voting.
Mr. Fauch, the motion in front of us right now is to extend the time for 30 minutes for our meeting because we have some business that we haven't gotten to yet. Secretary has asked for your vote for 30-second increase.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
30 minutes, but point of information, actually, that's not it. I'm gonna just ask the indulgence for me to blurt out something. We have things that we're required by our bylaws to do at this meeting. If we do not extend, we're gonna be in violation of our bylaws. So,
Okay.
All right, I'm fine with it then.
Mr. Fiore,
Yes.
Ms. Goodman,
Within that 30 minutes, can we make sure the violation aspect of it gets done? Because I'm gonna be getting home, 1 o'clock in the morning.
I'll move to make that the next items on the agenda.
Okay, then I'll say yes.
I was going to do that.
I will vote yes. Mr. Kane?
Yes.
Mr. Lalamont?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Labrie?
Yay.
Mr. Lutz?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chair, it's a 9-0.
Okay. That passes. We're going to extend 30 minutes to 9:34.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion.
Go ahead, Madam Secretary.
I move to move up to next on the agenda the appointment of the Style Committee, followed by Convention Committee applications.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, that will be the next order of business, so we will talk about the appointment of the Style Committee.
Okay.
At this point, we have to step back.
Yeah, the Style Committee has to be appointed at this meeting. There are some automatic members of the Style Committee, those being the chair of the previous Bylaws Committee, which was Betty Rose Ryan, and the chair of the previous Platform Committee, which is myself, and we can select 3 at-large party members. We did receive some applications. We received an application, and it's in two applications. It's in the OneNote, one from Mike Seebeck, one from Richard Friend, and it was my understanding that Mr. Hirschman did not see the call for applications, but that he wished to apply. Am I correct?
That's right.
So we have 3 applicants. I would like to move that we appoint Mike Seebeck, Richard Friend, and John Hirschman as the 3 at-large members of the Style Committee.
Second.
Any discussion?
What does the style committee do?
The Style Committee, let me
Good question.
read what the bylaws say it does. The Style Committee shall propose non-substantive stylistic changes to the platform and bylaws in accordance with the standards published in the latest version of the Chicago Manual of Style to the board for ratifications by a 2/3 vote, rejection, or determination as a substantive change. Basically to make sure it's stylistically consistent.
Sounds good.
Okay. We have any further discussion? Any objection? It passes.
And Mr. Chair, it is upon you to name the chair of the Style Committee pursuant to our bylaws.
It is. We have a number of good people here, a couple that I don't know. But I would like to, I'm gonna appoint Mr. Seebeck to the Style Committee Chair position. He's done it on other years and done a fantastic job. So I would love to take advantage of his expertise on that, and I'm gonna appoint Mr. Seebeck as our Chair of the Style Committee.
Okay, next item that is required by our bylaws is, the convention committee has to be appointed by next meeting. So I would like to move that the board directs the secretary to have prepared and sent out applications for the convention committee, which I'd get over to David, for review and appointment next committee, next meeting.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, that passes as well.
That is all that our bylaws require, even though we still have 20 minutes, so I'm just cheating to let everyone know if someone makes a motion to adjourn, we will no longer be in violation of our bylaws.
Reese?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Okay. Any objection?
Objection.
Okay. Would you like to speak to your objection before we take a roll call?
Yep, we've got 20 minutes left. We can probably knock out 1 or 2 of these other things. We're already here. I say we go ahead and just take advantage of the time that we've already allotted ourselves. We knock them out. We ain't got to deal with them next month.
Ms. Goodman?
The only new thing is, the later we go, the later I am home, and I don't see well at night.
Me too.
So I have 4 kids.
I have 1 eye.
Well,
you
the
win.
problem is my kids are going to be unattended because my husband will be getting up at midnight and going to work, and I'm not going to be home until 1.
Okay. Guess we'll bring this.
Real quick, is there like one other thing, maybe Delta County thing real quick, or anything, like one
What's
other
the
thing
most
that's
pressing?
important?
Can we triage that? Most pressing?
Here's what I suggest. I was going to move anyway. I think the Delta affiliate thing is something that portion of it's going to need to be handled in executive session and might need a little bit of time. I was going to float a motion by email to set a special meeting for that, online Zoom meeting to deal with the Delta County affiliate. And the other items on the agenda, I was just gonna move some email ballots.
Okay,
Mr. King?
real quick for me, toolboxes, I have a toolbox picked out, we don't even have to vote on it right now, but if anyone wants, like any affiliate needs one of those, I think we can all just agree to do that over an email for a couple $100 for that.
You can float an email ballot for that.
Cool, alright.
We will do that. We have a motion on the table to adjourn. We have an objection, so Madam Secretary, would you take a roll call?
Mr. Fauch?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Kane?
Yes.
Mr. Lalamont?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Labrie?
Yeah.
Mr. Lutz?
Yay.
Mr. Chair, it's 9-0
We are adjourned.
at 9:10.